What's up, YouTube? Today I want to talk about 5 tips for making better Psytrance intros. Let's dive in and have a look. So tip number 1 is to make your intro part of the theme of your track. So if you have any kind of vocal stuff or any kind of organic instruments within the track, it might help to extract parts of that or existing sound to use to kind of set the tone throughout the intro of the track. So in this particular track, I do have a couple of examples which I think might work here. One of which is a kind of vocal chant type of thing. And I've also got a kind of bongo loop type of thing, which I think is also quite a strong contender for a kind of thematic element in the intro. So what I want to do is I just want to start moving some of these elements over to the intro part, and I can start experimenting with kind of different tones to set the theme of the intro over here. Here in this part, you can see I've got the bongos with a sidechain on it. I don't necessarily want that sidechain in the intro because we might not have a kick or bass playing. So we might not necessarily need to reduce that transient too much. So I'm going to duplicate the channel and remove the sidechain effect that I've created over here. Cool. So we got some nice thematic elements here. It's just very few layers from the track, and it kind of gives us a very nice idea of what to expect in terms of the different sounds and stuff which we might hear throughout the track. So a nice way of being able to tell this is to just jump throughout the track and just see, are there kind of these tonal shifts? Like, does it suddenly change into something completely different? And at that point, maybe think about taking something from that part of the track and incorporating it into the thematic elements in the intro. There's a bit more of this kind of high frequency kind of sounds throughout the track. I think it's this cheeky squeak preset. This is actually in the Faceplant 2.0 factory pack. Okay, so let's move on to point number 2. I call this creating mystery or intrigue. So the idea here is to not use the entire sounds that you would use throughout the track in the intro. Just use hints of them, maybe just a small snippet of the sound with a big reverb, maybe a lot of filtering on the sound so it's kind of sitting in the back, and just a hint of the sound that we can expect later on throughout the track. So one thing which is pretty standard, quite essential I think in Psytrance, is the reverbed kick at the beginning of the track. So here what I want to do is just create a duplicate version of the kick that we have by rendering out just a single kick. And on this channel, what I want to do is put a reverb over here. So let's just say Cloud Seed. This is a free plugin, unfortunately not available for Mac. However, there's plenty of good reverbs. I'm sure you guys know of a good one already. Has a very nice big sound to it. So what I'm going to do is just render out that again. So now we have the reverbed version, but what I actually want to do is go right click, render settings, and I actually want to set this tails to bars and beats. So we've got a couple of bars of the tail of the sound which we can still work with. So what I want to do is I just want to use a single hit of this sound. So I'm going to duplicate it, select all events, and then let's just pop these MIDIs onto here. Then what I want to do is I actually want to open up the instance of the plugin, and I want to remove the delay over here by just reducing this macro. And now we should be able to render this out, and we can choose just a couple of those hits, maybe put some reverb on there, you know, to kind of thin out the actual sound so we're not giving away too much for the track. So when that sound does come in, that there's still a bit of interest. There's still a level of interest there because we haven't heard it before, yet we may have expected it slightly because our brain recognizes the tone of the sound. So here again, what I want to do is just put on that cloud seed, and we can experiment with some other reverbs if this doesn't quite fit. But I find it's usually very good for most tasks. So here, let's just split this up into each hit. We can go in and zoom in, and we can remove the ones that we don't want. What's also nice is to have a reverse crash. So this crash I do actually have a reverb on. I think it's the same reverb which I've been using this whole time. So it can help to have a reversed crash sound which you can use to lead into that reversed kick. So it can also help to add in some atmospheric effects like samples and stuff in the intro to kind of create that contrast between the actual track and the intro, and then maybe use those same atmospheric effects in the breakdowns and stuff like that throughout the track. So here I've actually got Projektor's Psychedelic Atmospheres pack. This is basically a pack of a bunch of atmospheres in various different keys. The cool thing about this is most of the atmospheres sound really good in context of psytrance, and they're specifically in different keys, so that makes it a lot easier to just slap it in your track or transpose it to what you might need it to be, and you're good to go. So this particular track is in F sharp, and unfortunately there doesn't seem to be any F sharp atmospheres. That being said, there's some pretty good ones in G, and if we transpose it just one semitone, I don't think we'll be able to hear too much of that aliasing happening anyway. So I'm just going to throw in one of these, and let's just see. We can actually audition a couple of them to see, so I can show you guys kind of the sounds that we're dealing with in this pack. Really good stuff in there. So, like I said, what we want to do is we just want to transpose these all -1. Because they're in G, the track is in F sharp, it's -1 semitone to get those to fit in. I'm going to turn the volume of these audio tracks down a little bit, and we can just play with a bit of this arrangement. This sound here, I think it was the last one that I put in. I like how this could potentially be used as just a tension builder or a riser. So the next point I want to talk about is making your intro DJ friendly and your outros as well. So what this means is having some sort of a beat, some sort of a main beat in the intro. And what that's going to allow the DJ or whoever's playing the track to do is to beat sync it up before the actual drop of the track. So let me just make a quick example of for you guys. This pre-drop and this drop this segment over here is very important. This is like one of the main drops of the track, is that first kick and bass. You really want to concentrate on making that perfect, right? But if the DJ is playing the track and he doesn't have anything to beat match to before that, it's almost impossible for him to get that exciting part of the track into the mix. Does that make sense? So if you give him a bit of room to work with beforehand, with a bit of the main beat, what he can do is he can beat match here, and then mix the other track out, and then let it play up to the pre-drop. Boof, comes in with a kick and bass at like as it's supposed to be, as you've designed it in the track. So think about this when you're creating your tracks. Think about incorporating some sort of a main beat, so that the DJ or whoever's performing your track, even if it's you're able to think about what parts you actually want to be heard by the audience, and make sure that before those parts there's a chance for the person to be able to mix it into. So the easiest way to do this is to just slap some kicks into the intro, because obviously, 4/4. So let's just duplicate some of the kicks from the project over here, and this should essentially kind of tie up that idea that I'm talking about. However, there are ways of kind of making it sound a bit better in terms of filtering the kick in and all sorts of stuff like that. You could use the bass as well if you want. It often sounds a little bit cleaner to just use the kick, except if we're doing filters and stuff like that as well, which we can look into. Okay, so the next point is tension, creating tension in the intro so that the drop hits with a bang. So the ways we can do that is, like I mentioned before, we can filter the kicks and the basses and stuff in the intro with various different effects. We could use risers and all sorts of things to throw in there. I've actually got a couple of risers in the track, which we can actually just duplicate and pop in wherever we need. So let's just see what this is. That's like a pitch riser, and then I've got like a glitchy riser over here. Perfect. And I've got a down lifter over here. And I've got another riser over here. So we have enough risers to work with here to be able to create tension in these parts when we need it. So I think with this one, we can maybe stack these two up, or we can use the glitchy riser here to bring into that kick part. And then here at the end, we have like a riser with all of these different atmospheres and stuff kind of coming together really nicely. I think that could be cool. A really nice way of kind of building tension and then building it on top of that tension that you've built is to kind of create a point where you expect it to kind of even out and then drop into the kick and bass. But at that point, it kind of starts building even more. I think what could be cool is over here, we kind of build to a point where it has a small kind of pre-drop thing, but then it comes into kind of kick build-up. So first, I want to show you guys how I would generally do my kind of filtering and stuff in the intros. So I've actually got a snap heap over here with a bunch of stuff. I did this in a previous live stream, but for now I'm just going to disable that just so that we can create a new one, just so that it's much easier for you guys to understand at home. Here, what I want to do is I want to put on a high pass filter, and we're going to use a macro that's going to control the cutoff frequency of that. What I also want to do is I want to set up a macro to control the mix. You can do one with two, but just to keep things simple for this video, I'm going to do two separate ones. So this is going to be called filter. This one is going to be called mix. Then what we want to do is just read-write automation, add some modulation for both of those, and then we can go in here and actually draw it in. So here, let's say filter comes in. see how here at this point, at the end of this bar, we're kind of expecting it to drop into the actual kick and bass. But here is when we actually start the real build-up. You see how much impact that would have when it comes in here as opposed to when it comes in here. So let's put in some more risers over here. We can actually reuse these and stack them up again just so that there's even more tension. It's all of the risers that we used before kind of stacked on top of each other. See, so what I've done here is I've actually timed it a little bit before so that I've got space to work in case I do want to extend it and stuff. But here, I want to just move this along so that this lines up over here. So we're basically just moving it forward by 1 bar. And I also want to just make sure that I've got all this group automation selected as well. And then just move everything up by 1. And so now it should line up and drop into the clean kick and bass at the intro here. So do you see what I mean about the DJ friendly thing? The DJ could loop this part over here, beat match this with the track that's currently playing, and then let it loop. Once the previous track is mixed out, unloop it, let the build up happen, and you get that complete pre-drop and drop, which is the clean kick and bass, which is one of the big impacts of the track is that pre-drop and drop section. So that brings us to our 5th point, which is the pre-drop. So there's a couple of things here which are there's a couple of tips that I can give you here about making really impactful pre-drops. Vocals work very well. Drum rolls work very well. Gated leads with a lot of reverb and delay work very well. And also just like a single, maybe organic instrument like a string or like a woodwind or something can work very well in this instance. So I want to see how many of these different examples I can quickly show you in context to kind of get a couple of different ideas of how we could take this. So I've actually got a thing called UVI World Suite, which is a collection of world instruments that you can load in Falcon or even in its in the UVI workstation, which is like their free player. And this is such a good source of all these types of organic sounds for just instant theme or just instant kind of pre-drop stuff for your track. So I'm going to get it in tune to the track that we're working with. And then what I want to do is I want to load up a couple of these instruments and we're going to just see which one we can find that's going to suit. Okay, I think I've found something perfect here, the shakuhachi. With these types of sounds, it's nice to have a 1/4 dotted ping pong delay on the pre-drop kind of thing, just because then that lets it kind of echo out rhythmically into the beat. Another neat trick for pre-drops is drum rolls. So Cubase has a really neat thing called Groove Agent, and what this allows you to do is generate drum fills, and you could use those to potentially trigger your own samplers and stuff, or you could actually just use the built-in drum kits inside Groove Agent. So for example, I'm going to load the init kit, And we can go over to the patterns over here. And then if we click this window, which is not very visible at first, we can choose from a couple of these kind of presets, and then just use this to choose what type of style of fill we want. And if we click break over here, it's not going to play the main beat, it's only going to play the fill. So then what we can do is we can click the settings, boom, and then click this to toggle, and then listen to a couple of examples. Actually, what I then do is jump into the instrument again, and I just want to mute the crashes. We can always put in our own electronic crashes again. I just find that they're a little bit messy. Okay, last but not least, we could create a vocal type of thing. So there's various ways we could do this. I mean, Vital is probably the easiest way to just generate a vocal, in the oscillator. Just generate a little speech sample. What I'm going to do here is text to wavetable, and we can just say psychedelic. Oh my gosh, I didn't spell it right. Let's set a LFO to modulate the wavetable position. Tune into the root note of the track.
Psychedelic.
Psychedelic, 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 psychedelic,
So those are all good examples of good pre-drops, I think. They work within the theme of the track, and they just help to kind of nail that point before the drop. It can also help to have like a bar or two of silence before that pre-drop thing occurs. So actually what I want to do is, let's just take these pre-drops out of here and then minimize this, and then we can move this whole thing backwards so that we have one bar of silence before, and that just adds extra tension to the overall picture. So as we basically want to leave a bar as long as the pre-drop before it occurs. So actually I just want to make sure I'm selecting my group automation as well, and the group automation, and then select and move it one bar backwards. And then here we build it up. Pre-drop. So we can even maybe split that pre-drop into two, where we have psychedelic and then the whistle, and then we can maybe incorporate that drum roll again. Just because I felt like I was a little bit busy at first, but now because we've got that kind of tension release, we could add that pre-drop, I think, with maximum effect. Awesome. That is about everything that we have time for today. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Let me know what you think in the comments. Again, thank you, Projektor, for sending me this Atmospheres pack. Definitely go check that out. There are some really, really nice samples in there. So yeah, like I said, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you haven't yet, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. See you guys next time. Cheers.